Hey guys, and welcome back to another video on this channel with so much variance in topics that you won't even know what to do with yourself when you're done watching. Today I wanted to take a moment to show you guys how I edited our Hard Rock Live multicam shoot. A lot of people have messaged me privately to ask me how I did it and wanted a little bit of an inside look on a large project like this and how it's done. So I figured I'd show you guys a little bit of what it takes to do a project like this. This project actually took me about a week of constant editing to complete, and I started out by editing the first part, and I decided against adding any effects or music since I wanted to spend more of my time editing the actual multicam shoot. So this first part was just kind of like a behind the scenes of what happened on our way up to the show. Once I finished editing the first part of the episode, I jumped onto the second part where I had to deal with a few tedious issues right out of the gate. I noticed that all three videographers did not keep the camera on constantly, so I'd have to basically conjure up some sort of magic before everything would be in sync. Final Cut does have this pretty cool multicam feature where they will actually line up all the audio and video for you as long as it can automatically decipher the data. Unfortunately, since one of the cameras constantly turned on and off during the songs, there was no way for me to make use of that clip without manually slicing it up and then syncing it all up. I left that for a little bit later and decided to tackle the first two cameras that I was able to sync properly. I noticed that the far cam was pretty much on the entire time, and since it was in the back of the venue, the audio wasn't so blown out like the other two stage cams were. I don't think that we actually pulled audio from the soundboard that night, and at least not that I can remember, so I definitely don't own a copy if we did. I never got a copy of that. So I noticed that the far cam was pretty much on the entire night, and since it was in the back of the venue, the audio wasn't so blown out like the other two stage cams were. Here's where I noticed the big problem. During the editing process, I ended up realizing that it was really killing the vibe anytime an audio glitch would pop up, and there was a lot of them. So you may have actually heard them during some of the live parts where I kept the audio in. It was so distracting during the editing that I decided to use some of the final tracks of the actual CD music to overlay it over the live audio in order to keep the flow going nicely, which put a lot of more energy into the set. I felt watching it with the audio glitches just kind of made it annoying to me, and I wasn't happy with it. I figured if it was bugging me that much, that it was going to possibly annoy other viewers as well. So on to the next part where I sync up the audio. I then went in and I had to sync up all of the songs to the live audio from the far cam, and there were a couple songs where the audio glitches were so bad that it actually threw the timing off on the songs, and I'd have to actually slice it up on the actual audio track from the CD in order to resync them up with the actual video, and this is something that I had to do manually as well. There's this other cool feature in Final Cut Pro where you can actually choose between the cameras that you want to show when you're doing a multicam cut. It's kind of like a live edit, and then you can go back and clean things up. This actually works really great when every video and audio track are pretty clear and it's able to automatically line them up. However, once I began creating all of the cuts and switching between the cameras, I noticed right away though that it was really obviously not matching up, and this is because the other two cams completely lose sync partial way in, and I had to go back into the multicam shoot to see what was going on. I had to watch both the stage cams all the way through and created a cut in every little section where I noticed that the cameras turned off and then back on, and this way I could take each one of those small cuts and try to line them up manually. I knew that it was really tedious because I had to sit there and use the shortcuts for pushing the clips back and forth, which is period and comma, I believe. So yeah, the audio jacks were just so jacked up on some of those tracks that I just had to eliminate them completely from being used in any other way. I wasn't really able to use these to visually or auto sync, so what I had to do was actually listen to the poor blown out track and then kind of try to match it up by ear with the far cam audio track and make sure that the movements in the actual video, like his vocals when he's actually singing, matched up to the audio, and I did the best I could with what I had. Once I spent a few days syncing everything up, I then went back in and began doing all the actual cuts. That's when I noticed some of the parts looked stupid because it was obvious that Dearborn was talking to the crowd, so I decided in those parts that I would just cut it out of the track audio and bring up the live audio from the far cam. I also also decided at the last minute to add some effects to the audio of the CD tracks because I felt that it gave it more of a live feel with some reverb versus a perfected mix that was on the CD. It just really sounded a lot more fake, and I knew that it wasn't going to sound real and it would be obvious that it wasn't the live audio, but I wanted to have more of a live feel than what's on the CD. I hope you guys enjoyed my quick recap on how I edited this video, and if you haven't watched that yet, be sure to head on over here to that little eye icon that pops up on the top right of your screen and watch it there. It's about 40 minutes long, but probably totally worth it if you're into rock or metal music, and I did work very hard on it. So I hope that gives you guys a little more insight into my life and some of the behind the scenes of how I edit some of these videos on my channel. As you already know, I do so many different types of videos on this channel, and I like to keep things interesting. So tell me below, what interests you?